we're now here. Oh, guys, what you guys? I know we were live for the draft, but after a couple of days later, what do you guys feel?
Reactions.
The reactions, the feeling.
I mean, this is how excited I am. I hung out with Chris on the weekend in Sandbanks National Park in Prince Edward County, Ontario, and I'd say a good third or half of the time, we were just talking about how like this draft might have changed. I don't want to go if it changed the rebuild, but it's literally
accelerated.
Well, listen. Will I use the word accelerated? Probably. I've said it from the beginning that this draft will be the deciding factor if this rebuild is, or in other ways of saying this, if the management was going to make or break this rebuild. And I truly believe the selection of Ivan Demidov at number 5 solidified that rebuild. And with the type of player that we got, the potential, the extremely high potential that he has, Chris mentioned that lots of scouts, lots of NHL analysts out there were saying he's the second best talent in that entire draft after the first overall pick of Macklin Celebrini to the San Jose Sharks.
Sam, you know what? Offensively, he's even touted to be not to be, but scouts could say he can have more talent offensively than Macklin Celebrini. Celebrini is probably just better all around, which what we need is more offense rather than two ways.
Well, that's the thing. But I mean, in terms of like maybe having that actual elite forward to be in the top 6, it looks and sounds like he's the one. And it's taking nothing away from Suzuki, from Caulfield, from Slavkovsky, maybe even Kirby Dach. Like we see the potential of Slavkovsky just at the age of 19, 20 years old, what he's done in just his second year in the NHL, not even 150 games in. But I think Ivan Demidov has the potential of being the actual best forward on this Montreal Canadiens roster in going into this rebuild. And it's beyond exciting. I think Habs fans everywhere are not over it. I think like it's I could call it a honeymoon phase, what you will, but like he's still being talked about. There's still people out there watching highlights and clips of him, and then
all this is because of the shocker from both Chicago and Anaheim, right? Like I didn't expect Chicago to go pick a defenseman, especially after last year getting Bedard. I had thought that Chicago was gonna do like repeat history, the Patrick Kane and
Taves,
like the dynamic duo. So going Demidov was that dynamic duo, Bedard and Demidov.
But Chicago tried to get the 4th overall pick.
Good point. Yeah.
Did you see what they offered?
Yeah, apparently they were very close. They were offering an unprotected first, I think, plus more next year. And Chicago is going to be a bad team. An unprotected first could have been top 3 next year. They were offering that for the 4th to get Demidov. That's how much they wanted him and Lashunin. I can never say it properly.
Not only
Shunov, that's right.
But not only that pick, but even Anaheim going with Seneca. I mean, he was shocked. You saw the videos, the clip. The parents were shocked. He was shocked. Everybody was shocked. So I think those two, way off left field picks, brought Demidov in our laps because Columbus right away wanted Lindstrom, right? So
they wanted to solidify their center ice with Fantilli.
I don't think Lashunov was a left field pick. Just to reiterate, I just think Chicago, they had a tough decision between the two, and luckily for us, they went with Lashunov.
But I think if Demidov was not picked, I think if Demidov was picked 2 or 3 or 4, I think our number 5 would have been traded.
Maybe. I mean, there was rumors. There was rumors suggesting that the Canadiens would have traded up to try to get Demidov. Now they said Kent Hughes said that he was number 1 on their list. I really thought Chicago was going to pick Demidov, but there were lots of rumors circulating that Chicago met with Lushunov, and they really enjoyed him. They actually liked the kid's character, put aside what he can do on the ice. So as those rumors kept growing, the rumors about Demidov dropping to number 5 kept growing as well. So there was a bit of hope, and I think with luck, the stars aligned, however you want to call it. Like, man, I couldn't believe Anaheim picked Seneke. I really thought they were going to go with a defenseman.
See, but this makes
did you see Hughes? Sorry, Anthony, I was just going to say, did you see Hughes keeping up with his kids and I think other people for the betting odds in Vegas for Demidov?
No.
So part of his post draft reaction interviews was he kept up with his, I think it was his kids messaging him, could have been others as well, showing him the Vegas odds about where Demidov was going and where the other players are going. This helped him gauge if Demidov was going to go second, third, or fourth, or if he needed to do something about it. So yeah, it was quite interesting how they came up with all this sort of theory and scenarios for Demidov, if where he was going to go, and ultimately they ended up being confident after Chicago that he was going to land to Montreal. But I still wasn't confident because I didn't think Seneke was going third.
No, I thought, I thought when we all heard they didn't pick Demidov, I thought Anaheim was going to pick him. I really thought Anaheim was like, well, there goes our defenseman that we really wanted. We're going to go get Demidov instead. And they picked Seneke, who's got a lot of talent. The kid's got great hands.
I was shocked.
Yeah,
it reminded me of the Kotkaniemi draft where that famous
lady
was just shocked. Yeah.
But this is this is on the flip.
Yeah. I'm just saying how shocking it was. Oh
yeah, his jaw dropped. He was like, and if you could lip read, he said like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Oh, good for him. Does that mean Anaheim's going to keep Zegras? Because right now, if you really think about it, their top 6 looks insane.
But they still need defense, so we don't know.
But this also makes me not question, but Joey's not going to like what I'm about to say. Maybe I shouldn't say this because I'm on a high now with him because he thinks that I'm right. But no, this whole Michkov situation. I mean, Habs going with a Russian makes me think that maybe there was an issue with Michkov, because we all thought last year not going with Michkov was because there was a whole Russian situation with the war and all that stuff, or the political, Habs and Russians don't go, right? Because the history of the Kosistin brothers and all those guys. So I thought we didn't go that route because of whatever history, But going with a Russian this year makes me think that there was an issue with Michkov last year.
No, so I don't know if you guys saw, we posted this on Twitter or X. Nick Bobrov's father told the Canadiens, well, not, I don't know if he told the Canadiens, but was not high on Michkov, but was rather told the Canadiens, pay attention to this kid called Ivan Demidov instead. I'm not quoting. I'm just saying what
paraphrasing.
I'm paraphrasing. Thank you, Chris. So Nick Bobrov's father is actually the one that told the Canadiens, like, scout this kid instead. And Nick Bobrov, exactly, who's with. So Nick Bobrov's father is a scout for the SKA. The KHL team, but Demidov played for the minor league team in the MHL, which is like I said, it's like the farm team of the KHL. And Nick Bobrov this time went to Russia, visited Demidov, visited his family, watched him play, and I truly believe, and Chris mentioned this, and I'm gonna kind of give him a one time on this. Chris mentioned something that makes sense more and more. Anthony, you said it too. I know, Anthony, you're a big believer of character and being a good person first before any type of talent. But Chris said Chris actually, we talked about this too this past weekend. Chris said they're actually gathering a bunch of good people, like good-hearted kids that most likely play for the logo on their chest rather than the names in the back of the jersey. So I want Chris to emphasize on this because I think this is really, really important for people to realize what kind of team Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton are building.
And to clarify before Chris goes ahead with Michkov, is because I know we're going to end Michkov's topic. I think there were less assurances because of his contract and just as a character. I mean, I wanted Michkov, but you don't know that.
No, we don't. That's true.
Other side of it. He might have been more unsure in an interview that if he was going to come over by 1 year. He ended up doing it, but you don't know at the time because he had a 3-year contract. He might have went, only in 3-4 years, which the Canadiens I don't think wanted or other teams.
Whereas Demidov has 1 year left in his KHL
and he assured he's coming over.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah. So, there's definitely that where you have what you're describing to be a safer bet. So definitely have that. But when I look at the Canadiens prospects that have been drafted, they've drafted a lot of guys like Owen Beck. The way he speaks comes across as arrogant at times. You listen to Slafkovsky, comes across as arrogant at times. Slafkovsky, I think it's more of a question of he's maybe a little bit uncomfortable with the English language. So I think just comic relief to kind of alleviate the situation and facilitate himself speaking. But at the end of the day, like it's moment when you see David Reidenbacher signing his contract and calling his parents with tears in his eyes and like that, the overwhelming feeling at the end of the day, just to make a long story short, is that the grouping of players that they are assembling seem to be confident, yet very respectful, humble, and team-oriented individuals. And I genuinely think it's going to tie right into, I think, the next subject. When I see a guy who's at the end of the season turning into just about a point per game player in Slafkovsky, sign a contract less than Nick Suzuki when he could have waited an additional year, gone to probably fetch a lot more money, but instead already put pen to paper, signed a contract, going to be here for 8 years, still respects Nick Suzuki's contract as the highest one. Everything altogether is just this team. There are just more and more and more signs of a grouping of very young individuals coming together for a common goal and putting their own personal interests as a secondary matter. Obviously, they're making a lot of money. Anybody who says 7.6 million is not a lot of money in a given year is as to get their range checked. But all that to say, we're working towards a common goal, and it's never been clear. I don't feel as though there are cliques in the locker room. I don't feel as though that potential problematic personalities are there. And Mishkov, if we're going to answer your question, Anthony, Mishkov, I believe in the saying where there's smoke, there's fire. Sam, you must love that expression. But
not bad.
All that to say, if there's rumblings of him saying, I don't want to play for this team, or I don't want this, or I don't want that, or there's this problem, who knows what the problem is, but I do definitely think there was something there. And if Nick Bobrov, who was as connected as he was, openly passed on the opportunity to draft him, well, fuck, I think there's something there. I think there's something off with him. I think there's something that didn't resonate. And again, you go to Demidov on the flip side, very similar, high talented Russian player. They said it was one of the best interviews that they had.
Yeah, that's so true too. That is so true. Before we get to the Slafkovsky topic, I just want to add a bit more and talk about maybe another one or two players that the Canadiens picked. But my God, I lost my train of thought here. But
can I add in between time?
Yeah, I realize.
I'll even go as far as this is not a Kent Hughes pick, but it's what the organization has done since then. I think Logan Mailloux is going to be a guy who's going to play with a chip on the shoulder for the rest of his days. Mm-hmm. He fucked up as a young man, but they did such a great job in surrounding him with the right people and growing as a human being that I don't want to say it's impossible, but I think we're just about flirting with impossibility when we say he's not going to be pulling stupid shit off ice. He's not going to be running around town and doing any sort of stupid things. He can't afford to, and it's just either the guys are already like that, or they're so well surrounded that this shit is like you used to hear various off-ice troubles from our players, and I don't see that. I don't feel that. I think these guys just want to play hockey and they want to win.
But I think, but see, that's what I've been saying since day one. And I know I joke around about character over talent, but put that aside. I've been saying it from day one. This team, the way Gorton and Hughes is building this team, they're not building individuals. They're building a unit. They're building a bond. They're building a family from beginning until the end. And it's going to be hard to let players go in the long run, which is going to be a really long time, right? Because they're all young players and the contracts are all beginning now, right? So you're looking at next 7 to 10 years, whatever. And we're hoping that we can win the cup within this little timeline before we get rid of all these players in the long term. But I think, and again, this is all the way it's structured. Suzuki is your guy. You want to come to this team, just know you're getting paid under him right now, because this is this.
You never know with Demidov.
Sorry?
Yeah, I think Demidov is going to be the guy who's going to break that. I think Demidov is going to be
maybe by like 100,000. He'll probably get like 8-9 million. But
that's what you guys said about Slavkovsky, and guess what? It didn't happen.
Hold on a sec. We're going to get to his contract.
I know, but what I'm trying to say is that you look at a team, and again, I don't want to shit on Toronto. I mean, yes, I love shitting on Toronto, but
shit on them.
Yeah,
I fucking hate them. But just to say, the way they built their team, they did it wrong. They could have done it if they had a Kent Hughes and a Gorton running that team, they probably would have won the cup 3 times in the last 5 years. No, because no, but they always have. No, but
I don't want to see them win the cup.
No, I'd rather either if they would have had a Marty St. Louis type coach, probably.
Yes, but you have to understand. I feel like those teams, like every other team in the league, not every other team, but majority of them build players by teams with talent and whatever. And sometimes that doesn't always work, right? Because you have
Toronto. It looks like by the looks of it, there's egos in Toronto.
Big egos. They can't play together. The Marnov and the Matthews, Tavares,
Demidov,
Marnov, but Russian Marner.
But they don't click. There's no chemistry. There's just a bunch of egos, hotheads, stuck-up players who think they're the best and want to prove that they're best, but they're not playing as a unit. And I think, and that's why I keep saying, I know I joke around a lot, Joey and everybody, I keep saying, dynasty. If they continue building the team the way they're going to do it, it could lead to that. I think Chicago did that years ago, when they had a bunch of young players built together. Even Pittsburgh, I think they did it as well. Boston, it was a bond. It was the locker room love.
Boston had a winning culture more than anybody.
And I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back in this conversation, but what you're saying, Anthony, I've been biting my tongue for 5 minutes now, wondering if to bring it up. I think all of us can agree that we did not expect Demidov to slide. I think it was just off. When we made our predictions, we did not expect that player to fall to the 5th position. The reasons, put those aside. I'm just saying, I definitely do think that we are closer to achieving that dynasty, so to say, because even if you take Beckett Seneke, you take Lindstrom, you take Tisha Ginlat, the players that we thought might have been coming, I'm sorry to say, they would have fit well with the team, hands down.
Yeah.
Open arms, welcome to the team. You make us a better team instantly. But the player that we got, I think all of us were thinking there are 2 things that the fans have to really take into consideration. Number 1, Kent Hughes was really high on Demidov. Were we ready to give up Gouli? Were we ready to give up another great prospect to move up and pick? Number 1, we didn't have to sacrifice anything to get Demidov. That's a huge win in itself. And number 2, Demidov as an individual, as a player, I'm sorry to say, but you compare it to those other 3 prospects that I named that could have been potential Montreal Canadiens picks, they cannot touch Demidov and what he brings to the table and the offensive skill that he brings. A lot of the other teams, like you take Chicago, they have their game breaker. You take Anaheim. I don't know personally. I don't know what Anaheim and Columbus were thinking, making the picks that they did. God bless them for it. But seriously, I do think Sammy was biting his tongue when he said, "I think it's accelerated." I am telling you, we jumped like 2 years we jumped the need to sacrifice for getting a really, really high talented player to come play on the top six for Montreal. And I think that sixth man on the top two lines is going to be a lot easier to get as compared to a guy like Demidov.
Yeah.
And Chris, to finish off on Demidov, Chris just summarized, we got the best of both worlds. We got Anthony's hard work and character that Hughes everyone wants, and we got the talent part. So that's
totally. This one point I want to make about Demidov and picking him, I don't think us as fans realize how much pressure is suddenly gone from David Reinbacher and having to perform just to prove that, hey, you did not make a mistake by picking me and by not picking Mishkov. That pressure is gone. And I'm so relieved for the kid just because of some of the backlash that he got from a very, very, very small percentage of Habs fans. I don't even know if they're fans. They're probably just internet trolls, but some of the shit they said to him, calling him, I don't know if it was Nazi or Hitler. That was terrible, 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 terrible. A poor 18-year-old kid. Nobody deserves that. But the fact that we picked Demidov, it erases everything in my books in terms of the pressure, putting pressure on Reinbacher. It makes me happy that he could come to training camp, most likely going to be a better player, a little bit more mature physically and hopefully mentally. I don't think he's going to make the team out of training camp. I do believe he'll leave an impression. He's going to go to Laval. He might be, I'd say, either the number 2, maybe. Depends if Logan Mayou's still there. Depends if William Trudeau's still there. It depends. There's so many factors. I do believe Reinbacher's going to Laval. And by picking Demidov, he could go to Laval, focus on his game, take your time. And it's to me, I that's like the tip of the iceberg is just celebrating that we have a potential elite talented forward. Beneath the surface, though, there's no longer pressure on Reinbacher now to perform.
Sam, you know who else it relieves pressure of?
I talking about a forward?
No, not just a forward. Kent Hughes itself. Kent Hughes himself.
Yep, that's very true.
To me, this draft, I don't know if we're going to give a grade or whatever, but I give this A or A+. He could have picked this, and he didn't. We'll get this is a good transition to Hage, Koivu, etc. He could have picked the shittiest, the worst players in the first round, and then in the third round and beyond. Never make the NHL, and I would have still gave him an A or A+ just because he drafted Demidov. Like the rest of the draft, to a lot of people's eyes, even to my eyes, it didn't matter as much as what he took as to what because he picked Demidov. I didn't even care. I cared, but in a sense, I wasn't hyper focused on the rest of the draft to get some sort of great player. I didn't even care. He could have picked anything. In my books, he would have been a winner that in the whole draft just by picking Demidov.
Oh, he didn't disappoint. That's for sure.